Izuke didn't stop running. He didn't think. His iron arm swung out, knocking the villain away, freeing the girl. The villain snarled, spitting ink from his mouth. Izuku ducked under it. The ink hit a rusted car behind him, melting the metal. "Run!" Izuku yelled at the girl, his voice sounding like grinding gears. She didn't need to be told twice, scrambling away as fast as she could. The villain lashed out with his tentacles again, but Izuku caught one, his iron grip crushing it. The villain screamed in pain. But before he could finish him off, a capture scarf wrapped around the villain, pulling him back. Izuku turned to see a tall man with tired eyes and messy black hair. Eraserhead. The hero didn't even look at him, focusing on restraining the villain, but Izuku knew that wouldn't last, so he turned and ran, his heavy steps thudding against the sand. He didn't stop until he was sure he was far enough. Pulling out the iron ball again, the transformation fading, he collapsed onto the sand, panting. His hands were shaking, his heart pounding. He had just fought a villain. He had just saved someone with his quirk. He looked down at the iron ball in his hand. A small piece of the microwave still stuck to it, his fingers tracing the hollow in his chest. He had a quirk, and he had just used it to save someone. The realization hit him harder than any punch, tears welling up in his eyes. But then he heard footsteps approaching, slow and deliberate. He looked up to see Eraserhead standing over him, his eyes glowing red. "Hey kid, have you seen a big metal monster around here?" he asked, not seeing the slow metal monster thing anywhere. Izuku was nervous, and Aizawa could tell, but not really knowing why. A what? No, sir, I haven't seen one around," he said, sweat building up with nerves. "Thanks, you better get home, it's getting dark," he said before he continues his search for the metal vigilant. Izuku waited until the hero's footsteps faded into the night before letting out a shuddering breath. He stumbled to his feet, pockets suddenly heavy with more than just the iron ball. Each step carried the weight of 1,000 unanswered questions. The hollow in his chest pulsed faintly, as if responding to the chaos of his thoughts. Iron. He could become iron. But the way that microwave shard had melted into him, was it just metal, or could he fuse with other materials too? His fingers twitched toward a broken bottle glinting in the moonlight, but he clenched his fist. Not here, not now. He went home and skipped dinner. Once inside his room, he locked the door and started to write in his notebook, thinking all the things he might be able to do and all the things he knows he's also to do. Does he have other forms? Should he test it? Does he have a limit on how many transformation he can turn into in a single day? Because he feels pretty good after turning into Iron 3, maybe 4, he can't really remember. Izuku's pencil scratched frantically across the page, words piling over one another like they couldn't get out fast enough. Iron form, needs metal input, hollow equals core, storage, trigger. Absorbed microwave fragments, increased mass plus strength, temporary, permanent. Pain level, low, fatigue, manageable, mental strain. He paused, staring at the page until the words blurred. His chest felt warm. Not glowing, not pulsing like before, just a quiet presence, like something awake but resting. He pressed 2 fingers to the hollow through his shirt, half expecting the iron to surge back out on its own. Nothing happened. Good. Also terrifying. Izuku leaned back against the wall and slid down until he was sitting on the floor. His hands were still shaking, not from fear this time, but from leftover adrenaline. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the villain's tentacles snapping, felt the resistance as iron crushed something alive. He swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to almost," he whispered, then stopped himself. He had meant to. In that moment, he hadn't hesitated at all. That realization scared him more than the transformation. After a few minutes, he forced himself to stand. Carefully, deliberately, he took the iron ball from his pocket and set it on the desk. Moonlight slipped through the cracked blinds, reflecting faintly off its surface. He stared at it like it might stare back. "Okay," he murmured, voice barely audible. "Test, small test." He pushed. The metal didn't flood him this time. Instead, it seeped in slowly, like warm water soaking into dry soil. His skin darkened, but only along his forearms. The weight settled there dense, solid, but his fingers stayed human. He flexed them experimentally. They moved. Izuku's breath caught. "Partial," he whispered. He lifted his arm and tapped it gently against the desk. The wood dented, but didn't shatter. No pain. No panic. The iron receded when he pulled the ball back, leaving him human again, just slightly lightheaded. He scribbled furiously. "Partial transformations possible. Control improves with intent. Hollow regulates flow. No immediate backlash. Mild dizziness. Manageable." A slow, shaky smile crept onto his face before he could stop it. He wasn't just a monster switch. He wasn't stuck choosing between boy and thing. He had control. The smile faded as another thought crept in, colder and sharper. Eraserhead. Izuku pressed his lips together. The hero had been close. Too close. If he'd looked just a little harder, if his eyes had lingered just a second longer. Heroes didn't like vigilantes. Heroes arrested them. And Izuku didn't have a license, didn't have training, didn't even have a name for what he was. He closed his notebook slowly and hid it beneath the mattress, then lay back on the bed, staring up at the ceiling. His body felt heavy in a way that had nothing to do with iron. "I saved her," he whispered to no one. The hollow in his chest warmed faintly in response, almost approving. Tomorrow, he decided, he'd test limits. Weight, duration, materials, he'd be careful, he had to be careful. Because now that he knew what he could do, there was no way he could pretend to be helpless ever again. Izuku sat on the edge of his bed, staring blankly at his uniform draped over the chair. His fingers twitched against his knees, not trembling now, but calculating. His brain had been whirring all night, gears spinning at speeds that should have burned out by now. Yet here they were, still turning, still chewing through variables like his life depended on it, and maybe it did. He reached for his shirt with robotic precision, each movement measured. Buttoning it took 3 seconds longer than usual because his fingertips kept brushing the hollow beneath the fabric, confirming its presence like a soldier checking their weapon. His tie knot was perfect on the first try, not because he cared about appearances, but because his hands remembered the exact tension required while his mind mapped exit routes from the orphanage. If he left through the east stairwell at 7:42, he'd avoid the caretaker's patrol. If he took the alley behind the convenience store, he'd cut 3 minutes off his commute. If he pocketed a handful of loose change from the vending machine refund slot, like he did every Thursday, he could afford to test copper wiring after school. Izuku paused mid-step, one shoe half-laced. Copper conducts electricity better than iron. Would that transfer to his form? Could he become a lightning rod? A conductor? His notebook. He needed to write that down before the thought unraveled. He yanked it from under the mattress, flipping past last night's entries so fast the pages hissed. The pencil barely touched paper before equations spilled out, Ohm's law adaptations, estimated voltage thresholds, hypothetical resistance variables, until his wrist ached from the pressure. A drop of sweat fell onto the page, smudging the ink. He stared at it. Human bodies are 70% water. Metal doesn't sweat. Another variable, another question. The alarm on his phone buzzed. 7:41. 1 minute until optimal departure. Izuku slammed the notebook shut, shoved it back into hiding, and was out the door before the buzzing stopped. His brain didn't. It kept running ahead of him, 2 steps left, 5 steps right, testing theories against reality like a supercomputer crunching disaster scenarios. The hollow in his chest hummed in quiet agreement. Today, he'd learn its language. Izuku's pencil scratched frantically across the page, words piling over one another like they couldn't get out fast enough. Iron form, needs metal input, hollow equals core, storage, trigger. Absorbed microwave fragments, increased mass plus strength, temporary, permanent. Pain level, low, fatigue, manageable, mental strain. He paused, staring at the page until the words blurred. His chest felt warm. Not glowing, not pulsing like before, just a quiet presence, like something awake but resting. He pressed 2 fingers to the hollow through his shirt, half expecting the iron to surge back out on its own. Nothing happened. Good. Also terrifying. Izuku leaned back against the wall and slid down until he was sitting on the floor. His hands were still shaking, not from fear this time, but from leftover adrenaline. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the villain's tentacles snapping, felt the resistance as iron crushed something alive. He swallowed hard. I didn't mean to almost, he whispered, then stopped himself. He had meant to. In that moment, he hadn't hesitated at all. That realization scared him more than the transformation. After a few minutes, he forced himself to stand. Carefully, deliberately, he took the iron ball from his pocket and set it on the desk. Moonlight slipped through the cracked blinds, reflecting faintly off its surface. He stared at it like it might stare back. "Okay," he murmured, voice barely audible. "Test, small test." He pushed.